Founded in 1999 by Jason Burks, Retrospec Films is Oklahoma's largest turnkey production company of its kind. With over 2 decades of experience, a full-time team of over 20 talented individuals, a 12,000 square foot studio to create in, and thousands of successfully completed projects in both entertainment and advertising. You're in the right place if you like hearing some good old filmmaking stories. On this podcast, we will discuss the pursuit of creating things and the problems we solve by digging up projects from across the last 20 years and giving you a glimpse behind the scenes where the magic happens. You're listening to Retrospec Films from the Archives.
Thanks for joining us today on Retrospect from the Archives, where we take projects from the past and sometimes the present and dig into them and talk about the problems we solve through filmmaking, which is what we all love here at Retrospect. Today, we are going to dive straight into a very unique project titled White Invitation. And this project, just to set it up before I cue the girls off here a little bit, we're always trying to create things here that inspire us, that excite us, that give us the opportunity to tell stories in a really unique, creative fashion through visual images and storytelling and all that jazz. But not always do our paid projects give us all the liberties that maybe a fun film project would. So, you could say once a year or maybe, twice a year, we try really hard to write something that gives us a chance to express all of our filmmaking needs. And this last year, we got together as a group and said, let's come up with the next short film. This would be something for film festivals. Let's make it incredible, and let's put our heart and soul into every aspect of it. So from there, we started a process. So I feel like I was a little bit a part of that process, but I don't know who wants to take lead on that, because we all got in a room, I think, at some point to talk a little bit about where this might go, and people wrote up ideas. So Taylor?
We started with random genres, and there was about 20 of us in a room, and we all raised our hand. And at the end of that meeting, we chose a thriller for our genre. And then we had everyone who wanted to submit log lines for different thrillers. And then there was about, I think it was it 4 or 5 of us? Because it was Adam, HT, Tackett, you, me, who met up, and we went through those log lines and refined them even further after you had chosen your top 4.
My log line was a short story.
It was a short story.
It was 2 pages.
But guess what? It was the one that got chosen. And then everyone voted on their favorite, and it happened to be Devon's. And that's how we arrived upon writing White Invitation. So that was the first step.
Yeah, so Devon, why don't we actually just take a second, talk a little bit about that process for you? Because, I don't know that you've ever had a short film that was filmed based on an idea that you came up with. So where did you even, when you started that concept, before we ever chose it, what was the inspiration there?
I was just reflecting on some of my favorite style of movies, which are thriller movies that have twists in the end and things like that, and movies that keep you as a viewer guessing the whole time. And so I was just thinking about that, and I just was thinking I knew I wanted the lead to be a girl, a female.
Because we're
exactly. And I think actually in that original meeting where we were talking about genre,
it's true.
Everybody but one person who submitted had a female lead.
It's true.
Yeah.
And when we were in the genre meeting, pretty much everyone in the room rose their hand to do a female lead.
So it was destined.
Awesome.
I think girls are more interesting than guys, for what it's worth.
I would agree with that.
I would agree 100% with that.
Why don't you go ahead and describe that a little bit? I know the story morphed, but what was the concept?
So initially, it was always about the main character receiving an invitation to either a pharmaceutical company or some sort of something where if she went, she would get paid for it. And she was always supposed to be down and out and needing money. And so she chose to go. But the whole thing was it wasn't what she was expecting. And she didn't know, basically. Initially, she wasn't supposed to know that she was going to be drugged. But she did get drugged. And then while she was drugged, she would go through some sort of therapy where she was going to have to relive, I called it her own personal hell. And in the original story, I just left that blank and open for basically, I just came up with like the vehicle behind it. And then at the end of it, she comes out of it and she has a choice. She can pass on this invitation to somebody else, take the money or not. So there was like this moral dilemma because she had to go through personal hell, but she also really needed the money. The original character I did was very selfish.
Yeah.
She was horrible, which was kind of the fun part about it.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of it.
I'm curious, which I never even asked you this. I feel like for me when I write, and I think it's probably true for most writers, that you will pull upon something that you can associate with. Because it's very easy to write from something you know about, and it's very hard to like, I could never write like a story about a 16-year-old female teenager getting her first car, because I could try, but I have no idea what that's like. Was there any parts of it that you felt like, what were you able to kind of like dip into and go, oh, I know this emotion, or I know this feeling? Of course, Grant, I know that, you know, you gave a lot of input on the final script, but even conceptually, when you were just writing that concept, what leaned you into that? Was there anything inside you that said, oh, I can pull from this or that?
I don't know, maybe the moodiness of the character being like not very sensitive, like
Oh my gosh.
Nope.
For
I've
those
loved
who aren't
Devon
watching
forever.
this, Jason just made a funny face
Nope.
when I said not very sensitive.
Nope, that's not true.
I'm going to hit him for you.
So, all right. So from that step, where does it go? And I think that was what, last year, fourth quarter,
I feel like
maybe?
yeah.
It's like somewhere in the fall to Christmassy.
Before Christmas break.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because like you expanded on it over Christmas break,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
After yours got picked, then we spent probably like
2 8-hour sessions.
2 8-hour sessions making a character descriptions for every single character. She was going to really defining what that personal hell was going to look like. And we decided at the end of our first trip to Hodges Bend that it would be a walk through a trauma that she had experienced to kind of also explain why she was the way she was in terms of being closed off to people, more aggressive. And we sat down and we defined all the characters, and then we created like a huge outline of the major, I guess you could say acts, but they're not really acts.
Yeah, I'd call it like the bones of
Yeah, the bones
of the story that lead you from beginning to end. That way we were able to, because we had like a lot of little like Easter eggs and little like a lot of visual things that needed to be repeated. And
sounds were huge in this script, where we were like, okay, we really want the metronome to come out in different sounds throughout different spaces. So it's not obviously a metronome, but you can still tell she's under hypnosis. Like there were so many things that we were like, okay, these are the elements that, so we created the bones in those 2 hour 8 sessions where Devon and I literally like acted out things. Like if you had walked into the room, you would have thought we had lost our mind, but welcome to creative development.
At one point I had my head in Taylor's lap and she was like
stroking
rocking
her
me
hair.
and like comforting me.
And we both started crying.
And we cried at one point together.
We
and
did.
Then, yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get really close in the creative process. But then, over Christmas break, I took our outline and kind of expanded upon it. And then I ended up taking the first stab at the script and wrote it out into dialogue action format. And then Devon and I spent more, I don't even remember, we added up the time, but I think it was like over 60 hours or something like that, really like diving into the script, beating it up, making sure all the Easter eggs came through, making sure our characters were true to the characters and their dialogue, and like taking it to Jason, having him beat it up. It was a whole process. It was.
I mean, it's important because we didn't have a whole lot of dialogues.
Yeah.
So a lot of the storytelling was done through the visuals. Through the sound design, through all of those things. So it was really important to look at it from like a bigger like perspective and make sure that
It all flew.
And it was fun to go through and spend that many hours and beat it up. Like it wasn't like taxing. It was fun to like dive into it and kind of pull it open and make it all make sense.
Play devil's advocate to everything and
Yeah.
make sure that everything was super sound. So when you were watching it as a viewer, I mean, I even had my mom, who's a social worker, read through it and make sure that we were representing mental health well, because it has a lot to do with reliving and re-going through trauma and opening up repressed memories. And so we wanted to make sure that when you're watching it, you're not just watching it and being like, oh, this is a cool concept. You're watching it and you're really like seeing what someone might actually being experienced who's walking through this.
Do you want to tell them how you came up with the idea for the drug that we give her?
Well, Megan Fox had something to do with it. We were like, what is a drug that like takes you through personal hell? And I was like, oh, I just read an article that Megan Fox and her boyfriend, Machine Gun Kelly, did ayahuasca down in Costa Rica. And it's like supposed to take you on a hallucinogenic trip. And so she's like, what if we did like, this company's coming up with synthetic ayahuasca. And so we called it Synasca. And we're like, oh yeah, let's do that. So it's like a drug, and then they put you under hypnosis. So you're like going through your mind while you're on this hallucinogenic trip, walking through your personal hell.
The drug is administered to the patient as in the tea form.
Yeah. We're like, how could we make this creepy? And we're like, oh yeah, you take it through tea. It's like shrooms or
Yeah, exactly.
We don't do drugs, by the way. We just research them.
Yeah.
Before we miss it, Taylor, I wanted to take a beat in there just to talk about, because I think for the most part you wrote the in-between. I know there's a lot of collaboration and bouncing and stuff, but at some point in writing, somebody has to get their fingers out and fill the gaps of the concept and the story arc. How was that for you writing that? And, you know, it's a little different too, writing someone else's concept, right? But and how you can have a respect there, you know what I mean? But then also like finding yourself in the writing, because you don't have to find yourself in it, but I think you tend to do that. So maybe talk to me a little bit about that writing process. Was it easy? Was it painful? Did you feel like you had writer's block? Did you love what you did? Did you hate what you did?
I feel like it came really easily because of all the prep work that Devon and I did. And I loved it. I sat down, Jason had suggested that I go through some of my favorite TV pilot scripts and kind of get a feel for what other script writers were doing. And Taylor Sheridan happens to be my favorite. If you're watching this, I'd love to meet you. It's fine. But he writes so poetically, even in his actions. Like when you read his scripts, it feels like a storybook. And so that was my first step of kind of figuring out the style, which I know we've had some discussion since then of like how I could have improved upon that. But, and then, I really just wanted to do justice to what Devon and I had brainstormed, but then also her initial concept, and make sure that Allie was true to who she was. And then I put a little piece, I lost my dad at 17. So I think the trauma aspect of like I never went full Allie out, but knowing how you do become guarded in a lot of ways. I don't know if that's answering your question, but I had a lot of fun writing this piece, and I think it came so easily. I didn't feel like I really ever had moments of writer's block. And that's the great thing about having people that you're co-writing with or co-developing with is anytime I did feel blocked, I would just go to Devon and we would sit down and have another 8-hour brainstorm session.
Do you think it helped or hindered your process knowing that you were also playing Allie?
Well, at the time I didn't really know that I was going to play her, but I think and honestly, that was interesting too, writing the script as a writer and then going into it as an actor. Like, I feel like there were things that I was like, oh, next time I write a script, I want to be more aware of this when it comes to character development, like always having an action point for your lead character, like where is she trying to go in each scene? And that was something that when I was sitting down studying it as Allie, I really was trying to figure out, okay, in every single spot, what is my motivation? And I don't think I thought of that as a writer.
That's interesting to look at it from that point, even if you're not playing the main character as a writer, like in each scene, like imagine if you were acting out that character and what you would need to make it from point A to point B in that scene. Yeah, that's interesting.
So the script is done. Obviously, we bounced it off me a couple times. I had some adjustments. My adjustments were small.
Except for the one where...
Even though you don't like them.
The twist at the end where I was like, that literally changes everything. And you're like, it changes nothing. And me and Devon, we sat down and we're like, it does change quite a bit, but it's fine.
It changes things in your head. It didn't change much on paper.
No, it's great. It's good.
I'm curious, maybe in reflection now, which, we've filmed it at this point. And I think, even though we're not going to talk about the pre-pro and the production and all that stuff yet, but I am curious from a creative development and a writing perspective, are there things now post-filming that either of you feel like you've learned and you're like, okay, if we do this again, this is what I would do different? And what would those things be?
So much. I feel like, and I don't know if this is a creative development thing, but having the time to actually storyboard out the scenes to like really capture what we're wanting or hoping that you guys will capture in production, which I know a lot of that comes with directing, but just so our vision's even clearer. And I think that would be my big thing.
Mine would probably be, you know how Adam did that kind of outline map of, what was it, She Sings, and he shared it with us. I would have loved to do that for each scene, like broke it down by scene, and then just because I'm super visual and just to have more confidence going forward that we didn't miss anything. So like we could have all the sound elements we wanted and all of the visual elements we wanted. And even though we did do that, it would have just been a more efficient way to do that. Yeah.
And I think too, like something that you said to me in the beginning of the writing process, but figuring out if there were other ways that we could have visually told the story instead of through dialogue, because even watching it go through post-pro, like wondering if there were stronger visuals we could have added in some of the scenes that might feel a little bit like they're dragging at this point. I think it's it's amazing. I think it's really great, but I think that was our first big script that we wrote, and I think really learning how to tell story well in a short amount of time is difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. Because it's coming in at like 25 right now.
It is, and we're supposed to have it at 12.
Well, it was 26 pages.
Yeah,
like the final draft.
Yeah,
was 26 pages.
And I kept saying it's
so
just
the rule is true.
I
know. It's
a minute a page. The rule is true.
Which is crazy because a lot of it was just like description, but still that age-old saying held true.
It did.
Yep.
So if you're writing a script, minute per page.
It really is.
Yeah. It's one thing that I find unique, and, I don't even pretend to have mastered it because I feel like I've spent most of my career shooting things that are, for hire, advertising projects or, even sometimes documentaries feel similar to advertising projects. But being able to tell a story with a visual instead of hand feeding it. Yeah. Like instead of having an actor say, oh my gosh, I think that water truck is going to go off the bridge. Don't have them say that. Just have them look and then see a water truck go off the bridge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's interesting. Like it's tricky trying to like navigate strips and go, okay, like, so when do we like hand feed the audience the story so we know they get it because they saw the argument, and then when is it inferred because you see a paper that says they got a divorce?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like those are tricky things.
Which I like the stuff where you kind of have to be a present audience member. You kind of have to pay attention to it, or if you don't notice it, you can come back and watch it again, and then you notice those things. You're like, oh, that's what she meant when she said this. So I lean more towards stories that are like that because I like to get involved in my brain. And
and that's like the heart of a thriller is to keep the audience guessing through visuals and
misleading
sound,
people
to where they get to the end and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to watch that again because they want to understand it even more. And when they do, if you've done it right as a writer, they have all those Easter eggs where they will be able to. And I will say, of all the genres we could have chosen for our first short film, like Thriller's a difficult one.
And we did a past present thing, which made it also difficult.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
I am too.
Yeah, it's definitely a complex script. And I think that, I think we did pick something that, one of the easiest genres to shoot is like a horror. Yeah. Because literally all you have to do is play the right music. And everything is scary.
And lighting.
And lighting.
Make it dark, put stuff out of focus in front of the camera, creep around, and bam, you got a horror film. But I think that psychological thriller does require a high level of intelligence with all the different little nuances. And I think they're there. Obviously, we're in post right now, and we still have to shoot one more thing to get stuff finalized up. But, I'm really excited about it.
I am too. Devon, if there's one piece of advice that you could give people watching who want to write their own short film, what would you say?
I would definitely say start with what you're most excited about, what you're most interested in. Like, don't go for what you think like the viewer wants to see. Like, if you are really interested in rom-coms, I would write a rom-com. If you love horror movies, write a horror movie. Like, start there, because then, and it may morph into something else as you get into it, but like, that will help you get your juices flowing if you just start with something that you absolutely love. What about you?
I would say have a piece of paper, a whiteboard, or a Google Doc open and just throw things at the wall. Like, no idea is bad idea in the beginning, and like go into everything with open hands, because that was something I struggled with. But the more open you are to ideas shifting and changing and growing, the better the piece is going to be.
That's why we spent so many hours. Like, we would go off on tangents, and even if it never went anywhere, it still helped us like get to where we needed to be in the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so it really is a journey. And like, if you don't say it or allow your idea to stretch and grow, like, you're going to be stuck.
Yep.
And I think that's probably another reason why it felt so easy to write it, is that we were just kind of like on a wild adventure, like two kids on a scavenger hunt, just exploring every single possibility and like being open to it. And I think that's what is the fun part about creative development and writing, is you are like kids.
And there's no rush.
Yeah. There's no rush.
Well, thank you guys so much for developing, writing this script. I'm super excited to get it all finished. It was exciting to shoot. And Devon, I know we'll talk about it in other episodes, but thank you for being so diligent on set and helping my brain work.
You're welcome.
My brain stopped working multiple times on set. And I was like, something's off. Where's Devon? I can't even remember my name.
I was going to say that. If you don't have a Devon in your life, get yourself a Devon, because this girl is creative.
There aren't very many. It's hard to get a Devon. You can't just
you
get
probably
a Devon.
can't have a Devon. She's one of a kind. So sorry.
Really uncomfortable right now.
Let's just keep complimenting her.
Well, and Taylor's over here like smoking cigarettes, all angry and emo on set.
Yep.
And so I can't go talk to her. And so, no, it was a good process. You know, I will say, even though we'll talk more about it in other episodes, but I feel like this, like for me, like directing a film, there was an extreme comfort I had in all the things. And it was actually really nice, because I think I guess you were a script super, which is a very significant role. And it was nice that you were a part of the development and the writing and everything, because it gave me this incredible amount of confidence that I normally can't have. Because normally I'm the only one on set that exclusively knows the vision. And many times you knew the vision better than I did, which was really helpful. I mean, I probably could have caught myself up quicker, and I probably would do that next time. But that was really nice. I mean, I kept thinking, I was like, oh, if we ever made a movie, like I look around this set and I'm like, we could do it. We could do it with these people, you know? So
I definitely felt a responsibility to help execute the vision, because I was also doing it for Taylor as well.
Yeah.
So she could kind of be Allie and focus on that and not have to worry if things were being executed properly. So I like felt extra like, this has got to be done. This isn't just for me, this is for Taylor as well, to make sure that our vision is
executed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I really loved writing, having a writing partner, and especially you, because I felt that too. I felt like we were like in it together throughout the entire process.
We had the same goal, 100%. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode of Retrospec from the Archives. We will have follow-up episodes on the pre-production of this project, the production of this project, as well as the post-production of this project. So we're going to dissect it, and really excited to share more of the creation of this film, and hopefully it wins a bunch of awards and some film festivals, and we get to like travel around and go to some rad film festivals. So we'll see what happens. But if you have any more interest in stuff Retrospec Films, check out our website, retrospecfilms.com, and hopefully we will see you on our next episode on From the Archives. See you then.
Bye.
Goodbye. Later.